The Wolfpack is back, and they're bringing their shenanigans to another country. Hello there, everybody. I'm movie critic Nick Yakabuchi, as always, for RealScreenReviews.com.
And I'm returning critic Greg Hill. And our next review is The Hangover Part 2, which opened in worldwide release on May 26, 2011. And it stars Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, Zach Galifianakis, and Ken Jeong. This movie is directed by Todd Phillips, who brought us the first installment, and also other films such as Road Trip, Starsky and Hutch, Old School, and Due Date.
And now I'll tell them a little bit about this one. This one sees the same main three characters of the Wolfpack. That's Stu, Alan, and
Phil.
Reunited in Thailand, where Stu is now the one that's getting married. And the night before, they go out for a bachelor party to have one drink. And once again, they wake up, have no recollection or memory thereof, and the events kind of take place just like they did in the first one. Is that not an accurate assumption?
I'd say that's a very accurate
assumption. Now I'm going to start with this. If you saw the original movie, The Hangover, then you've already seen this movie. And what do you think?
I share your sentiment. You know, anybody who's seen the first one, you can walk into this and pretty much
know exactly what's going to happen. And I'll tell you, this is I thought of this before I went into the film, and I have to make reference to this. There are two movies that come to mind when I want to describe this film, The Hangover Part 2. Miss Congeniality Part 2 and Sister Act Part 2. They're both wonderful, wonderful original stories, the first parts are. And then you get the sequel where they're just forcing events to happen and forcing events to take place once again. And that's exactly what we have here. Every moment of this film, I mean, they even make reference in the film where, let's check our pockets. That's the standard thing to do. And it's like, it really just, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
It is, and the humor's the same as the first, and there are some very funny moments.
There are funny moments in the movie, but I think when I start weighing those against how they just went by the standard playbook, it just kind of felt like a retread.
Yeah, it is disappointing because, I was sitting there in the theater, which was packed.
Yeah.
And everyone was enjoying the movie, and I just was disappointed because I'm sitting there, I was like, oh, well, now this is going to happen. And
there wasn't any surprises.
There wasn't any surprises.
No. And I'll tell you, they replaced what I would call serious bouts of solid laughter and dialogue with car chases and shootouts in this one, and I just thought it was well over the top. Another thing that I had was the Ed Helms character, and he'll be the first one to say that he's not a sex symbol. I've heard him say that about himself, and he always seems to be paired up with a rather attractive lady. It's not even believable. I mean, this girl looks like she walked off the cover of Cosmopolitan, and she looks like she's half his age, and she's a doctor. I don't understand where the attraction is, and I'm not saying, I know Love is Blind and all that, but that just seemed like it was just totally ludicrous from the get-go. I mean, I could see him hooking up with she was just so beautiful. I could see her with Bradley Cooper, but I couldn't see her with him, and I don't know. That's another thing.
I don't even have words to say.
Well, I'll tell you, at this point, what really gets me is I would never think that going into June, that when I think about the movies that have come out until this point, that Fast 5 would probably be the most entertaining film that I've seen so far this year. What do you think?
That is disappointing. And
I think it's better than Thor. I think it's better than Pirates. I think it's better than this. I think it's better than pretty much anything. What a disappointment this has been so far.
Yeah, hopefully there are better things to come for the summer movie season. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
Do you have anything that you can add about this? Do you think anything at all is...
I thought, as I did in the first one, the monkey was funny, but for me, again, Zach Galifianakis was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
He's just really funny, and, it's just, he's so random, some of the things that he says, and it just makes you laugh out loud.
Yeah, now I know I'm kind of beating this movie up, but I there were funny parts to it, but I said when I think I weigh it out, it was just such a huge disappointment, and it was even a bigger step down from the first one. Well, how many stars are you going to give this, Greg?
Well, like I said, I found myself laughing a lot through the movie, so I gave this movie 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Okay, so he's being extremely gracious to this film. Okay, he's being extremely gracious. So you're going to give it 2.5 stars?
2.5.
Okay, I'm going to say drop that by 1. I'm going to say 1.5 stars. I think that Todd Phillips is on a downward spiral with Due Date and now this. I didn't like Due Date that much. I think I like this movie even worse. I wish he'd go back to his roots, to Old School, and maybe the first Hangover, and really rebound and give us something really good to look forward to maybe in the next year or so.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said earlier about, the first one was really original. I mean,
right.
There really was no movies like that, and now that that was such a success. I don't know. It might be hard for him to get back to that form.
You know, I made reference to the fact not too long ago in another movie that in Pirates, in the review of Pirates, it's like they're making the sequel just to make it, and it reminded me of Indiana Jones Part 4, where they're making the movie just to make it.
Exactly.
And the actors in The Hangover said that they felt like that this was a quality script, and that's why they went forward with it. And I can't for the life of me believe that, because it's the same exact thing, almost like a carbon copy. If they sketched it out, it would be the same thing.
Well, that's why they thought it was quality, because they were probably reading the same script from the first movie, and it just, Todd Phillips penciled in like a 2 next to the title or something.
Well, I'm going to say that Greg's being very lenient and very easy on this movie. I'm going to say that this is something you can easily just wait for. And I know this movie's going to make a boatload of money, but just because a movie is successful and just because a movie makes a lot of money doesn't mean that it's a good movie. Well, Greg, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And Greg's going to be back shortly to review both the X-Men and Green Lantern. So Greg's got the cornerstone on all the superhero
Hopefully
movies.
Our rebirth of the summer movie season will be with these next 2 superhero movies.
Well,
I'm looking forward to them.
I am too. Well, Greg, thank you once again. And remember, people, we're not always right.
Only when it comes to the movies.
And thank you for your attention.